Hey guys, I have another vlog, very short impromptu vlog. But first I want to start by saying good evening to everyone except the person who stole my credit card. You suck and I hope you have a bad day. That was shitty. What else was I gonna say? Oh, the other thing, I have my hair down, but I'm wearing like a black sweatshirt and the lighting is horrible, so I didn't really think that through because I was like, oh, they can finally see my hair. So it's what it looks like. Can't really, and it's wet, so it's hard to see. But yeah, there's two things that I really wanted to talk about just like super quickly. I have to catch my breath because I didn't even do anything. I just got out of the shower and it was hot. And I've been running around, so maybe that's why. But anyways, I just got back from therapy about a half an hour ago or so. My sessions are really late. They run from like 8 to 9, which I actually really like because then I can just, instead of having to like go about the rest of my day kind of mulling over these emotions, I can just go to bed. And when you do sleep, especially when you get REM sleep, you're actually processing like the information you took in that day. And it's like scientific sidebar, but that's one of the problems with PTSD is because it interrupts your sleeping cycle. And so you're not able to properly process that event or other daily stressors in your life because you're not getting that full cycle of sleep. Because a lot of people, and this is something that I used to struggle with, sometimes still do, it's kind of like flared up a little bit more lately. And it may be because I'm drinking a lot of caffeine, but a lot of people will like wake up repeatedly throughout the night and that sucks. But yeah, why was I bringing that up? Okay, so I'm gonna start with, I want to talk about an epiphany that I had in therapy tonight, and then also maybe a little bit about the reprocessing because we actually started reprocessing tonight, which that's big news because I've been in therapy for like 7 months now, since April. And yeah, we haven't done that. It's a long time to be in the prep phase, which is like not anyone's fault, I guess. I was gonna say it was my fault because I like talked a lot. But I think the prep phase was very much needed. And I feel like my therapist and I are like very much on the same page. But yeah, so anyways, this past week, like I said in my vlog from like 2 days ago, was a little weird. And I just like, I've been feeling really good. And then I had like a fight with my parents on Tuesday night, which doesn't happen a ton anymore. Happened a lot in high school, which is relevant, so remember that. But yeah, so that kind of like triggered me to like feel I don't know, just like feeling out of it, kind of, just like feeling off, like the peace and the joy that I had been experiencing kind of like started to go away, and instead anxiety and like hopelessness set in, and it kind of like cast things in a negative shadow. And it was weird because something that I experienced this week, and I've talked about this before, and it's happened to me a couple times now, is like I will get these phases, and I think it's like some kind of dissociation where like I'm like confused that my life is my life almost. Like suddenly I'm just like, what am I doing here? Like kind of like, it almost feels like, because I mean, it's not perfect, but like I'm proud of the life that I built for myself. I like the life that I've built for myself. But then it's like I'll suddenly like wake up and I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, I don't like my job. I don't like where I am. Like, I don't like who I am. I don't like my passions, stuff like that. Like a lot of like core things that make me who I am. Like I feel like a detachment from, and not even that, but like almost like an aversion to. So that was happening this week, and it was very like anxiety inducing, and I just felt like the need to run away, metaphorically speaking. I mean, I had like the urge to run, but like to no particular place. I was just like, I gotta get out of here. And so that was really weird. Just like it felt, and then the analogy that I used tonight, or the example with my therapist, I was like, it kind of feels like 51st dates. Like she wakes up and she's like, what the hell happened? Like, what do you mean I like got into a car accident? Like, it's kind of like that. Like, I'm not trying to insinuate that like I've forgotten anything or like blanked out my life, because that's not what's going on. That's an actual thing that people experience. It's called dissociative amnesia, where yeah, people will like not remember their life, or of course there's like dissociative identity disorder, which like some of you are probably familiar with. But it's not that, it's not to that extreme. It's more just kind of like this weird detachment, and it's very jarring. Like I'm just like, what am I doing here? And so I was talking about that with my therapist tonight, and then I brought up something else, which was like it was something that happened on the way to therapy tonight. I was driving and I was like kind of trying to connect the dots in my head of like why I was feeling the way that I was. And I was like, you know, it's interesting, because I was thinking about the failure stuff I talked about a lot in my therapy notes this week, and I talked about in the vlog, and I was really mulling that over. And what did I say? I was like, you know what probably has something to do with it? And I'm not saying this to paint my parents in a bad light, but my parents and I'm very different compared to everybody else in my family. I'm very like politically different, and like, I don't know, personality wise I would say too, like my interest and like my dating life, like I'm just very different in respect to everybody else in my family. And there are some things that are more obvious that like for example, and my parents don't know this, but like being queer, that's like something that like is a core part of me that like my parents would not be on board with if they knew. Or like, again, like our political beliefs are very different. My parents are very conservative. And also just like some of my personal issues that like I don't even like really consider political, like they're more like human rights issues to me. But yeah, so anyways, there's a lot of things that make up, and like the artsy side of me, like they've come to like, I think, embrace it more. But I don't know, growing up I always, especially when I was a teen, like I got the message that like my stuff was weird and like I overshared. And so I kind of felt like there were a lot of parts of myself that wasn't accepted by my parents. And I remember thinking in high school and in like more so the beginning of college, and I think deep down this is a belief that I still hold, but like thinking that if I was successful enough, then my parents would have to like love all of me equally, like they would have to embrace all of the different parts of myself because everybody else did. And I was thinking about that in the car, and I was like, this probably is significant. And then I brought it up in therapy, and I was like, holy shit, that makes a ton of sense. Because after the fight, like I think that kind of like triggered some memories from high school, like subconsciously, because again, that was something that happened a lot in high school, like getting in like fights with my parents. And I remember just like when that would happen, I would escape into this daydream of where was this person who was like really successful and well established and like well liked, and I don't know, just like every positive attribute you can think of. And that person in those daydreams was like the age that I am now. I've even like surpassed it a little bit. And I think that's why I kind of felt like it was like that teenage self of me was like activated on like a subconscious level. And I think that's why I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, why is my life my life? Because this is not the reality that I like had envisioned for me at 22. That's not the one that I selected. So it's like she's stepping into this and being like, this is not what we had on the docket. And so that was like really interesting to piece together. And I just wanted to kind of share to like, and I think that's kind of cool that like I was talking about that 2 days ago, and now I can kind of like connect those dots a little bit, and hopefully you guys got to kind of see that in real time, quote unquote, too. And the other thing, reprocessing, I don't know, I guess I'll get into that. We didn't start like reprocessing an actual like, well, we did reprocess a memory, but it wasn't like one of the like bigger ones. It was just a test memory. So like she had me pick something really mild. And at first I was like, oh, my cat's dying. And she was like, let's not start with that one. And so I was like, okay. And so instead I did someone flipping me off when I was driving, because it made me feel like shameful. And I was like, that was something that kind of bothered me, but like it's not like life altering. And so she was like, that is a good one to start with. And so she asked me a couple questions. I can't remember all of them, but it was like, what image do you have in your head of that like memory? Like, what's like the core image that comes to mind? What's like the belief that was like associated with that? And so the belief I had was like, I am bad, because I remember feeling like embarrassed when that happened. And by the way, that incident, I will say, I'm not always in the right, but that one I was not in the wrong for, because I was driving. Sorry, I'm gonna explain this. I was driving and I was stuck behind this really slow car, and I couldn't pass them because it was a double line, and also there was cars coming the other way, and then there was this other car that was behind me. And then as I was getting on, like coming up to the intersection to get on Route 1, and so I got on Route 1 because that's how I get home, and the car that was really slow kept going straight, and then the car that was behind me got on Route 1 too, and then they passed me and they flipped me off, and I was like, what did you want me to do, you know? But I still felt like kind of embarrassed, and I felt bad, even though that literally was not my fault. Like, I will be the first to say I've made mistakes while driving, but that wasn't one of those times. But the other thing I was gonna say, oh, okay, yeah, so she had me pull up that memory, and so like the belief I had was like, I am bad, because that's how I felt, and she had me like describe what I felt in my body, and like I could kind of feel something in my gut, not my butt. And then there was a couple other, she asked me to like rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, like how true that negative belief felt. And then she asked me to come up with a positive belief, and then she asked me to rate how true that felt. And then we did, so she's like, okay, I just want you to hold that, like those negative feelings and that imagery and that belief, like the negative side of things. And so I did that. And then I closed my eyes, and she started like the bilateral stimulation, which there's a couple different kinds you can do. Some people use like a light bar, some people follow the finger, some people do tapping, butterfly tapping. And for me, I listen to like the bilateral sound, so like it goes back and forth, and I put headphones on. And basically what they do is like they just like they kind of, the philosophy is that like your brain heals itself. Like the therapist will step in when it's maybe called for, like say you're dissociating, or like your brain is kind of getting like a little too off track. Because I've had times where we've been doing bilateral stimulation, tapping in just like a positive belief, and then it's like something from a trauma comes up, and it's like, we're not gonna like touch that yet because we're not ready. That's not what we're doing right now, and so you have to like put it into a container. You do like a container exercise. That's part of like the prep phase. Should have made a video about the prep phase. I don't know if I think I've talked about it a little bit, but anyways. So basically you just do like the tapping, and they will just check in every so often and go like, okay, what are you noticing? What are you noticing? And I know at one point or another, like there comes a time where you actually like instill the positive belief into things. And you might bring in like, another thing you do in like the prep phase is like create, I don't want to call them comfort characters, but like you create like a wise person, a safe person, like a caretaker, like these like visual figures who will like protect you. That sounds really weird, but I don't know. I'm just not good at explaining things. It's like 10:30 at night. But yeah, so I know at some point that kind of implementation, is that the right word? Doesn't matter. Plays a role into things, but I don't think, we didn't really get there tonight. The feeling, the intensity of the feeling, whatever I'd rated it at, I don't really remember. It went down from like a 5 to a 3. And so the goal is to get that intensity rating down to 0. And so you just keep doing the reprocessing until that happens. But yeah, that's just like a very quick, like barely educated overview of what EMDR, that facet of EMDR is, because it's a lot more than just the bilateral stimulation. Like all of what I've been doing so far has been like EMDR, but sometimes I think people, myself included, tend to just like call or think of EMDR as like the bilateral stimulation part, and it's a lot more than that. But yeah, it was interesting, and I feel more hope now that I've done, like, that we're getting into reprocessing. I told her this week in my therapy notes, I was like, yeah, I'm ready to start, like, let's go. And so that's why I think, well, that's why we started today. But I'm glad that we did, because I kind of got to a point where I was like, okay, consciously I feel like I'm doing everything that I can do for the most part. And I'm like trying to rewire, I'm not good with my W's, my brain outside of therapy. But it's like I am stuck on a somatic level. Like I can change my conscious beliefs, but it's like still not true in my body. Kind of like the thing about failure, like I can like reconceptualize it and like think about it in a different light, but I still kind of feel like that gash in my chest. So yeah, anyways, sorry this is a little bit longer than I was expecting because I wanted to be like a mini vlog, but it's like 16 minutes now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because I thought it'd be really insightful for people who are maybe interested in EMDR, or starting that journey, because it's a little rough, guys, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, I hope everyone has a good night and happy Thanksgiving. So yeah, bye.